Hello everybody, I'll be doing a book review for you today, and I'll be reviewing one of my favorite books of all time, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. Now, I read this probably when I was about 13, and it really wasn't recommended school reading at the time, and so I'm like, I read it before I was 21. Yeah, I read it a long time ago, and I just always remember it like being probably the first book that ever really captivated me and really made me fall in love with the beauty of literature and the written word, and it's always set a standard for me ever since then, and I'm like, if it can compare to The Lovely Bones, it's a good book. And I found my copy back home when I went to visit in the shed and in a box, and I was just so happy because just thinking about this book just makes me happy because it is such a masterpiece of modern literature, and I've been wanting to reread it for so long. It's been way too long, and it's one of those books that just resonates with you. It just stays in your brain, and so I'm so happy I found it again so I can review it and I can reread it again, hopefully this year. So this book takes place in the 1970s, and it revolves around the main character. Her name is Susie, and you find out right away that she is murdered. It's on the first page, like probably the second sentence, I think, and it's not a spoiler. And so she's basically telling her entire story from heaven about how she is adapting to this new spiritual world and how her family is adapting to life without her. And it's basically a big character piece about how sometimes a death like this can either keep a family closer together or it can completely tarnish and separate and ruin everything. You just don't really know what's going to happen unless you're in that type of situation. And it also, a big role is also the murderer of Susie. You find out lots of different, the book will go to him every so often about things that he is doing. And so it just has a lot of really cool perspectives. Susie's version of heaven that Sebold created, it was just not something that I would have expected. And it's mainly like she's in this world, in this kind of like limbo world, until she has to let go, and she doesn't want to let go of her family yet. And so she is there with her family, looking down and really trying to just to keep watch over her family while they're trying to find her murderer. This book just really is a beautiful character piece about how so many people can identify with the character in this book, about how one would react and how one might be affected, and I feel like young and old people can identify with this book, and it's like I read it so long ago, and yet it still is very present in my brain, and it's such a masterpiece, and I feel like everybody needs to read this book. So if you haven't read it already, I highly recommend The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold.